Welcome to the Church Universal series, where we seek to tell the often untold story of the many apostolates in the Catholic Church which are making a positive difference in the world through their charitable works and prayerful lives. Young people serving in the military have a life of frequent transitions. How can we support and encourage them in their Catholic faith? Hello, I'm Father Joseph Mary, and my guests today are from the Archdiocese for the Military Services, USA. And we will be discussing how they are helping young people in the military to live out their Catholic faith. Dr. Mark Matosa is a Vice Chancellor for Evangelization, and Ms. Casey Bustamante is the Associate Director of Young Adult Ministry. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Father. Good to be here.
I was surprised to learn in our conversations this morning that 95% of military men and women are between the ages of 18 and 39. So how are you reaching out to these young people?
It's a good question, and it's one that Archbishop Berlioz, the Archbishop for the Archdiocese for the Military Services, is very concerned about. It's one of his major pastoral priorities to try to figure out how can we effectively connect with these young adults who are stationed around the world at over 200 military installations, deployments, at U.S. embassies outside of our borders, and in VA medical centers. It's a great challenge. It's a little bit like looking at the world map on your logo and trying to connect with everybody. And often he'll come to our office in Washington, D.C. at the Pastoral Center and ask us, what are you doing to connect with all the young adults? I look forward to hearing about it. And we say, so do we, because we're trying to
Still figure
that out.
Huh?
It's an evolving question, and it's what makes this pastoral ministry so exciting, because it's not an easy answer. There's not one program that is going to fit everything.
Right.
So digital connections are very important to us. Our colleague Margaret Petit works on our website. She helps with social media. That's a great way for us to connect with people on the move. We have an office for faith formation that works with the faith formation of the young children of our men and women in uniform, but also for adult faith formation, especially with RCIA.
Right.
So that's very important. And then, because it's such a priority for the Archbishop to reach out to young adults, he's established an office for young adult ministry, and we're blessed to have Casey working in that office.
So how's that going, and what are some of the initiatives that you're doing?
It's been a blessing. I began serving in this ministry right after serving active duty. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and I share that because that time in service really did help to shape seeing what the need is, and also getting to experience it myself, being a young adult at a local military installation. And I would say that it has been really an exciting and creative experience because it is a newly established, fairly newly established office. And so in the exploration that we've done, we've really seen that it is helpful to help form our young adult leaders. Trying to reach a global population, as Mark mentioned, we can't reach them all. And so trying to see where our best efforts can be, and that is with forming our young adult leaders. And so we've had biennial gatherings with our young adults, as well as hosting them for World Youth Day. We do that pilgrimage with young adults, but we also have a young adult board, which has 15 to 20 members of active duty members and their spouses, along with priests that are serving as military chaplains. And that is a way in which we are really getting to hear from the local level, really getting to hear what the needs are, and helping to shape the initiatives that we try to put together with more immediate feedback.
So it's not just something you're dictating from above, but you're seeing what are the actual practical needs that young people say they're experiencing and trying to
And
to
I
meet
think that's something we also heard, and Mark and I were very grateful. We were on the right track, or the good track, with the most recent synod on young people, faith, and vocational discernment. Accompanying young people is something that came out of that. That was really a resounding theme that came out of that. And that is something we've been hearing from our young adults. And so with that, we also are working alongside a nonprofit called Evangelical Catholic, and they provide evangelization training through an online training system which works with our global population. But then they also have a coach that they meet with when they're going through this training. And what the training does is to help young adults really be able to accompany their peers in the faith life. So, you know, you've heard of like relational ministry before. This is a way in which we're really trying to equip military young adults wherever they are to be witnesses to the faith.
That's so important, isn't it, to have just local leaders that you're training, because peers have an effect that non-peers may not, right?
It is. It's important for us. I think sometimes people are looking to us to say, please tell us the program. Let us know what's in a sense, the field manual to do this, because that's their experience in the military. If they're given a task, they're given the instructions on how to do that. We're flipping the model a little bit and asking them, well, listen to one another, and let's listen to where is God in the midst of all of these transitions? What are the pastoral needs, and how can you serve them and identify them, and then we can help find locations that are doing that well and share with one another, or we can go to other places and try to find some other resources that will be useful. But it's not plug and play, which is the way so many people want to do things. We're really trying to follow, as Casey was saying, how do you help young people who already have a sense of serving also then understand how do they follow their baptismal call? To learn how to discern, where is God calling me in the midst of this moment where I have been placed? The military's placed me here, but God has placed that person there as well for some reasons. And that, to bring that to prayer and to the community of faith is extremely important.
As I often say to sometimes people have difficult work experiences in their life, and I'll say, maybe look at it in a different way. Here's your mission field.
Yes.
You're here, maybe you don't like this particular work that you're doing right now, but what if you look at it as your mission field? The missionaries didn't always go into pleasant territories,
That's right.
but they brought the gospel, right?
Yeah, and that's something that I would liken to the early church, right? You think about, you know, Mark talking about our baptismal call to go and make disciples of all nations. I mean, these are military, you know, these military young adults are literally around the world. And we've heard before that, you know, secularism has had an impact on society, it's had an impact on the military. And so often the young adults can feel isolated because they might be the only one practicing their faith. But that was just like the first disciples, you know, that they would go to new cities. I mean, new languages, right? Having to speak new languages to share and be a witness to Christ. And our young adults it's asking a lot of them, but we have that by the grace of our baptism.
That is a great thing that has to encourage them, that this is what the early church experienced, right? Going into a foreign land, learning the foreign tongue, and yet the gospel transcends all cultures, and you can bring Christ and bring his life and gospel there.
That's true, and I think in some sense, in the midst of all that maybe confusion or transition, I can find rest and I can find my home in my faith. So that's an important reminder for those who are struggling.
So you're using the means that we have today, the digital means by which people can stay connected because they're in transition, they're moving from here to there, it's a global community. And yet we have this need for fellowship. How are you meeting those particular needs?
Sure. I think that anything that we do digital, we always have to keep in mind that the end is not just the digital connection. The digital connection should foster some sort of local gathering. And so kind of going back to some of the training that we have helped facilitate for our young adult leaders, that the purpose is to call one another into that community wherever they're stationed. And so oftentimes they're starting with people who are disaffiliated, right? We talk a lot about the disaffiliated who are no longer coming to church. We can't rely on I can't rely on meeting fellow young Catholics in the church that I go to on Sundays. I have to be thinking about who are my friends that also have the same hunger that I do, and what language can I use that really helps to invite them, because no one's being pushed into this, but knowing how much fruit can come from a faith life, that's what a young adult is inviting their peer into.
I mean, young people, I think, over the decades, they have common problems, and yet there are some unique problems that people face today. What would be some of the challenges that you think young people have today that you're trying to meet those needs?
I think some of the challenges we have in the military are also in our civilian population, that there aren't a lot of young adults in church. So if we have an active duty young adult who moves to a new installation and goes to Mass, they may not find a lot of young people there. And I think this is where we are really encouraging our priests and Catholic coordinators to reach beyond the doors of the chapel, and they're doing a good job of that. But they cannot be the only ones who do that. So that's why we need to train other young adults to do that good evangelization work, to go out and say, my faith is important to me, and it's the foundation out of which I serve in the military and pursue this mission to defend our country. And I think when we have witnesses like that who are willing to share, that's creating these cohorts of young people who will get together in small groups, and all of a sudden people are saying, hey, what's happening over there? Why are they so happy?
Right.
And why are they feeling more grounded in the midst of all of this transition that we're all dealing with? And from some of the initiatives with Evangelical Catholic, we've been able to go to those installations and do interviews and hear some of those success stories, which has been a great gift for us.
Any stories you want to share of people that you've seen, their life has just really been bettered by coming to know young Catholics who are fervent about their faith?
Yeah, so with this formation training that we've recently been working on, I went to Camp Hansen, which is in Okinawa, Japan. So, all the way on the other side of the world. And it was really fascinating going there. I had known before that there was a contract priest that was serving over probably 3 to 4 installations. But it was something else to go there and see how far these installations were from one another. Okinawa is a small island, but it probably took about an hour to get from the south side of the island up to the north. And then when I met with I was working with a young adult leader there, and it was only by chance that he had heard about this initiative and became the young adult leader for it. But the impact, I didn't realize the impact it had on just the Archdiocese, having a representative come to their installation. It had an incredible impact because they had just recently lost the contract priest. The contract didn't get renewed. And there was kind of a transition period between that priest, and then there was an active duty chaplain Catholic priest that was coming. But there was a brief period where there were 3 Sundays that they didn't have Mass. And, having daily Mass at your installation alone, you have the luck of the draw, but you don't realize often that a lot of these men and women don't have Mass every weekend even. And so it just made, he felt like it was just a hard transition to make, because it took them taking a shuttle bus to the other side of the island to get to Mass.
Wow.
And he said, he knows he wasn't forgotten, but he said, I felt like we had been forgotten. For his part of the world and the training, constant training that they were doing, this was, a moment, a sacrament that he could have had. And we've heard already that there's a great need for priests in the military, but just that impact. And then for him to be able to witness to the larger church does care about us, as a young adult leader, being able to share that with the fellow Catholics, that he's there, that we are a part of a larger church.
Right.
Now, do these young men and women in the military have things to offer to their parishes at home, the civilian parishes?
I think so. When they retire or separate from the military, these are people who are coming back to their home communities or new communities. And when they walk into our parishes, they're a great gift to connect with. In the military, they are well trained. They are given great responsibility. They're well supervised, but they handle equipment that sometimes is millions and millions of dollars, and they are able to do it and do it very, very well. And I think oftentimes in our parishes, young people in the age range we've been talking about, from 18 to 39, are looked at as, well, you need more experience. Well, they're certainly coming to us with great experience. And they're also people who get things done rather quickly. In our civilian parishes, sometimes a volunteer will get a task done in a month, and that's a great thing. But in the military, sometimes it's done within the day. So our challenge is to help them not to just get tasks done and keep moving forward, but also to reflect on why they are doing those things. And they have both abilities to do that. So they're looking for a way to connect. They've been able to do so in the military, and we have much to do on the civilian side to welcome them back.
I think that's a great point, because you think they're learning responsibility, there's an accountability. You've got to get this done when it's due, right?
And the right way.
And the right way, right? Not just a half-shod sort of job. And so they have a lot to offer to our parishes just through their experience and responsibility.
I think too, Father, there's a lot of parallel with the ascetic life. You know, you think about the structured environment that they've been under. You know, if they are starting to grow in their faith while they're in the military, they take that very seriously, and you know, they find that moment in their day to really pray. I know that I myself, when I was in the Air Force and deployed, I was very consistently going to Mass, you know, daily. I was very grateful where I was stationed in Iraq that there were several priests there, and so we had daily Mass. And just having that routine lifestyle, it really does afford itself to growing in the faith life. And so there are a lot of military families who have a rich Catholic life, and you just see their children that are growing up in that environment. And so I think that when they come back to their civilian parishes, that's a really great benefit.
What was it that attracted you to the military, and then now your current position that you're holding?
Yes, originally I was interested in the military as I was in high school when September 11th happened. So very much grew my desire for public service. My dad also served. And so it was a way in which I knew I could serve. But really what it became was an invitation from the Lord to grow in a relationship with Him. I went to the Air Force Academy. While we were there, we had focus missionaries, and we actually have focus missionaries at all of the service academies currently.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And they do a great job, obviously, working with students. And so we often connect with young officers that are coming into the military that have that background. But there were just, you know, basic training helped me realize who I was and how I respond in stressful situations, and really just helping me answer my own questions on who I was and is my faith really something important to me? And if it is, I need to live my whole life for it. And so it eventually led me to here. I was a volunteer for a long time doing young adult ministry, and could see that there was a great need to really support military members in a more direct way. And so that was when I decided, or when I was asked actually by Mark to consider serving the Archdiocese.
So you're the one that brought her on as part of the wider evangelization?
Well, we had actually done a training at the Air Force Academy for training leaders, and Casey was part of that.
Okay.
So we had learned of the good work she was doing, not only at the Academy, but then also in Aviano, Italy, where we have an air base, and our paths kept crossing. So that's part of evangelization. I was listening and and hearing, oh, there are good things happening. So when the Archbishop,
I didn't mind sharing my opinion.
That's true. And when the Archbishop wanted to move further and really reach out to young adults, Casey was the person who came to mind first. So I was glad she said yes.
So you do meet competent men and women, then
Absolutely.
You say they would be very helpful in expanding evangelization efforts and helping to reach other young people.
Indeed, yeah, and people who have a heart to do it. So, so our challenge is how do we foster that from a pastoral center in Washington D.C. Because it's hard to connect with them, but slowly we keep going, and with God's help,
I think
make some progress.
Our young adult board has been able to bring that many more voices directly to the table. Archbishop Broglio has participated in our young adult board meetings, and we actually meet virtually. So we meet like in a video telecon, and we meet on a quarterly basis. And also one of the things that we are planning for this later this year is a young adult ministry symposium, and so we will be hosting that in Washington D.C. But being able to hopefully meet with 75 other young adults and just be able to talk with them more about what is the faith life for them right now. What is it like in the military?
Now, is there something the general public can do to help support your efforts and what you're doing?
Well, to pray, certainly for those who are in the military, to pray for more priests. We certainly need more priests to serve throughout the Archdiocese. And then also, I think, to consider how they welcome those who are coming back from military service. Many who have deployed and are coming back to their communities sometimes need someone who will listen. They're not all struggling with post-traumatic stress, but some are, or traumatic brain injury. But there's not just post-traumatic stress, there's also post-traumatic growth. And that comes when people are actually able to listen and have an environment where they feel that they can reconnect. So if we can help young people who are coming home and struggling with a soul wound or a moral injury, really understand that the church is there for them, the healing sacraments are there for them, the community of faith is there for them. And even with our veterans, retired veterans who are in our parishes, could be kind of the front line, to be the first ones to welcome them. That can help provide some momentum that is sometimes lacking, that they feel that there is no momentum. They have a doubt of self-worth. Who am I as a baptized person, and who have I become because of war? And trying to reconcile those two cannot be done on your own. You need a community of faith who will walk with those who are returning from war. And that's our responsibility as civilians to help make that happen.
You know, my parents' pastor on Veterans Day, he'll have each of the veterans stand up who are parts of different conflicts and things. And I think maybe that's a way that pastors could reach out to those who have returned, and for, like you said, the parish to be part of the healing if they've had some certain trauma, moral or physical or whatever they might have gone through.
Yeah. My father served in the Air Force, and we went back to his home parish to visit relatives. And every time we went back, the priest would make us stand up. And as kids, we hated it. But you're right, it's a great recognition, and people will talk to you then. So it's a good opportunity.
Do you have any closing thoughts about your ministry, or how people could help the young adult ministry that you have in the military?
Absolutely, with prayer. But also, if you know a young person who's entering military service, to share with them that we are here to support them. It's often in the midst of someone's military career that they get connected with the military archdiocese, but it's just great to help share that message that we're here and we're willing to support them.
Can they contact directly your office? Or
They can.
Yes, absolutely, through our website, www.milarch.org. And there's an office tab, and it has the evangelization office, young adult ministry, and all the ministries I mentioned at the beginning.
And what would they find there on your website?
They'll find kind of a vision for each of the ministries, an encouragement to connect with their Catholic chaplain, if there is one, where they are assigned, and if not, ways to help connect with others to be able to help them grow in their faith.
We also have resources listed as that are available to them. Some of the different initiatives that we've shared are listed there as well, so our contact information is there. We also have a AMS young adult Facebook group, and so that's a way that military, incoming military people could connect with other young adults and find hopefully some Catholic military members that are in their local area.
Because this covers all branches of the military.
Yes.
So I think we all know young men and women that are entering the military, and that's a great thing to refer them to.
Absolutely.
To see what resources are there to support them in their service. Well, thank you for your service. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to offer to our viewers?
Well, I think thanks for praying for those who are in the military, for giving us the
Yes.
opportunity to share what is sometimes an invisible reality. We often applaud those in the military in airports or coffee shops, but we need to do a little bit more
Right.
and remember that when they're far from us, they're also close to us, especially in communion. So I think as we are celebrating the sacraments back home, as much as we can remember their intentions, that would be extremely helpful, and then welcome them when they return as well.
So they are serving us, they are helping our nation, and we owe them something, right?
Absolutely.
We have a debt of gratitude, certainly, but
Yeah.
even beyond that, to pray for them, to support them in any way we can, especially to support them in their Catholic faith.
It's a good mutual exchange.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you,
So
Father.
thank you, Father, for the opportunity.
Young people have many challenges facing them today, and those in the military living as they do with frequent changes need additional support and guidance. The Archdiocese for the Military Services USA is making a difference. And perhaps you are called to help their efforts on behalf of our treasured youth. We will see you again this time next week for another episode of the Church Universal.